All right, so top of the morning and having my coffee, which is so good. It's the right blend. It's strong. It's Starbucks, this, and they're discontinuing it. It's like this little, you get it in like a little tin can. It's about that big, and yeah, they're discontinuing it. I don't know why. It's pretty good, but anyway, you guys don't really care about that. Make sure you join the Discord, which is going to be down in the description box below. Um, this is one of those questions that it's not an Ask Her Shinoe, but it's just a discussion that we've had on Discord, which is interesting. You may have heard a few weeks ago that basically the fuel prices in the US are going up. So this summer, fuel prices are going to be like really expensive. They're already expensive here now. My sister-in-law was here. She was like, I'm surprised that the gas prices were as high as they were. And because we live here, like I never really pay attention to it. I know it's just, there's certain things where you just kind of don't even pay attention to anymore, because if you did, you would just be, you know, shocked every day. But yeah, I mean, our gas prices are expensive here already, but they're rising overall. And typically during the summer months, gas prices do go up, but for whatever reason, they're going up even higher. But it leads into this particular situation, which involves home prices overall nationally, right? And I'm going to tie these two things together because with higher fuel prices, the cost of getting goods and services, including lumber, go up, right? Because they just tack that on to everything else. So your fuel prices are going to go up. Transporting those goods are also, the price for transporting them are going to go up. So you're going to see a small bump naturally just because fuel prices are there, right? You may not really notice it much, but it's there. But there is a massive lumber shortage nationwide. And we're in the area of the country that produces a lot of lumber, right? A lot of trees are cut down here. We have a lot of lumber mills. We have some downtown, actually in the tide flats. So lumber is produced here, amongst other places, right? But there's a massive, massive lumber shortage, mainly because of the sickness, because of COVID. There have been a lot of folks that were not able to work in these industries that supplied lumber. And so just automatically home prices across the country, even before this, had started to go up. But now, just on average, in just regular America, building a new home will cost you $36,000 more. Now, this was an article that was just published May 5th, 2021. Today is May 6th. Yeah. And so there's a guy on our Discord who is an amazing guy. He lives here. I have yet to meet him, but I would like to. He's a pretty cool guy. He was telling me some stuff I didn't even know in terms of like the water heater. I'm like, what? Anyway, but he posted this article because I've known about the lumber shortage, and you hear stuff, but I didn't know it's going to be $36,000. I do know people were saying that the cost of plywood is so expensive, where you could get it for a few dollars. It was now like $35 or something insane. And there was a project here that was going to be called the Preserve. I did a video about that. I don't know if I posted it up or not, but that project for low income housing is shuttled. They're not even gonna do it anymore because the cost to do it is so expensive. What they're trying to sell the homes for to people versus the cost to build is so expensive, they're not going to be able to really do that, and the project doesn't make sense. Because if they wanted to build and charge what would make sense, it defeats the whole purpose of them trying to make this an affordable home type deal, right? They're going to have it where you would lease the land for 90 something years or something like that, and you own the home. When you decide to sell the home, you have to sell it back to them, or you would you can keep it in the family or something like that. They wanted to have generational wealth, and they wanted things to be a lot more affordable, and it's mainly for people who live and work within this area, right? Again, it was a great idea and concept, but the whole rationale behind everyone should have a home sometimes doesn't make sense. You can easily build townhouses, condos, things like that, which are really going to be a little bit more affordable than a home. Homes take up a lot of land. I'll go down. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I will. I have one, and people will say that's hypocritical. But homes take up a lot of infrastructure, and it costs more than just the home itself. Because when you talk about these new builds, and if you go to Indiana and places like that where I used to live, and they would just build all day because they have tons of land, the blueprint that they're doing is not a good blueprint. I mean, look at other cities who've done that. It's not a good blueprint. You just basically create more sprawl, more traffic. Phoenix can be a good example for you to look at. Phoenix, Houston, all of those places had tons of land that they could just keep building forever. And then you end up with tons of highways that you have to build, tons of new power plants that you have to build because you have to power all of those homes, right? And each home is going to have different power setups, right? You have to put in all the new sewer lines. You have to basically put in all of the water lines. You have to put in all of the electrical lines, right? All of the new roads that have to be built, aside from the highways. If you have public transportation, you have to expand that. Police and fire. It's a stupid thing. The whole sprawl concept. If you look at Europe, it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense to basically build up than to build out. Because building up, everything can be more concentrated and it is a lot more affordable. Now, it costs more to build up sometimes, obviously, but the payout is a lot better in the long run, right? And so when people were going to, some of these nonprofits were going to Haiti, and they're trying to build homes for people. They're building all these homes everywhere, but it's like, first off, people can't afford to maintain them. They're not going to be able to get to them. There's already bad infrastructure to begin with as far as roads, power, all of that. And you're basically having to extend all that stuff out. And in a country that just cannot afford it, and people who can't really afford it, it's not something that really should be done. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any houses, but I think that there's a different way to go. I mean, there's a reason why places with limited land, like Hong Kong, built up a long time ago, much more affordable. And when you look at here in this area, in Tacoma, for example, I'm getting off my tangent. If you're looking at $36,000 is what it's going to cost for a home nationwide on average, imagine what it's going to be here. Now, this doesn't just apply to new homes. This also counts for remodeling. We talked about this in the Discord. There's things I want to do to the house, and this the gentleman that's on Discord wants to do to his house, but he's like, well, we got to wait because we don't want to fork over the extra high cost to just get lumber to do it. We have a couple of projects here I would like to do, but it's like the price is too much. We weren't anticipating that. And then you keep in mind, we were going to take our income tax, refund, and actually remodel the bathroom, right? But we don't want to dip into savings. We want to take, what we're getting in and do that. And of course, Noel screwed up the bank routing number, and so we didn't get it in time. So they're sending it by check, and then there's a problem, and so we still haven't gotten it. Right? There was a problem. They didn't get it, sent out. And so now they're having to do something else, and it's supposed to come at some other time. But they're trying to get it here before they have to pay penalties, right? But see, I don't get that type of flexibility, nor do you. But anyway, so we now can't even do it now because the cost of the project is no longer valid. When we actually went and got estimates done, they gave us a certain amount of what that estimate is. Now, that estimate doesn't even count because 30 days have passed, but for two, the cost of supplies have went up, namely lumber. So even remodels are being impacted by this. So when you look at it, building a new home here is kind of rare, but it does happen. But remodels is a big thing here, and that is going to be impacted like crazy because the price for lumber to do so and the price for employees and workers are going up too, right? It's the perfect storm, really. Right now it's summertime, so this is when a lot of people want to buy homes, right? This is typically when people go out and buy homes. There's a massive shortage of homes because the sickness kept a lot of people unsure of what the future was going to be like as far as income and jobs and stuff like that. So people held on to their homes. You'd be surprised the number of people who own their home outright. So why sell my home and get into a whole big risky factor here? Let me just stay where I'm at. Also, and this is another question that I am sending to the realtor. The other thing is that you sell your home, you're waiting in line to find another home if you can. So the price for existing homes here will also balloon. Now you have the normal ballooning effect because of just of where we are. Home prices are going to be pretty expensive, just in general. But then when you add on the fact that lumber is so expensive, people who were going to build are saying, you know what, that extra 36 grand on average or more, let's say here it's an extra 50,000, I can't do. Or some people aren't even qualified at that point. So they're saying, you know what, I'm going to go back into the market to just buy an existing home. Well, then what that does is it adds more demand to an already high demand, low supply market. There's a very, very low supply of homes, and not just homes that are affordable or the average price. So homes here in the 450s, 475 is about average right now. Not even that. You have homes that are approaching $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. There's a shortage. Here, a home, and we toured a home with my sister-in-law. We were trying to get them to move here. And the realtor that I'm going to interview, the home was nice. You get a great view of the water and everything. And it was for $950,000. And the realtor said that she was shocked that the home has sat for a week only and there hasn't been any movement because a week is too long. Now understand, and this house needed work. She admits that. You could tell that it needs some work in there. It's turnkey, but it needs some updates, right? Because the people that lived there basically kind of retired there. They were older couple. So, they were used to a lot of the older things. There was appliances in there that I wouldn't know how to work because they're just older. They were in good condition, but I don't know how to operate them, right? So you would have to do a lot of updates. At least 100,000. I'm just guesstimating at least 100,000, not counting the wood prices today, but let's say 6 months ago, you would need at least $100,000 just to do some updates in the home. And I still don't know if it would knock everything out. You would need a new roof because you can kind of tell it's close to the water. So there's a factor there. It needs to have new paint. There's some siding that needs to be done, carpet that needs to be done, remodel the kitchen, remodel different areas. There's a few things. It's still an amazing home. It is turnkey. You can move right in, but you still need to do some updates, right? At $950,000, most people would fall out, right? Most people are like, whoa. But here, that's not that big of a deal. And the fact that it's sitting on the market for a week, the realtor said, I can't believe it. Here's her card, by the way. Right? So she's like, I can't believe it's been here for a week. Because homes don't sit here for that long. And it doesn't matter the price range. So the fact that now the cost of lumber is just where it is, the regular existing homes are going up. Now, one of the things I will do when I do talk to her is talk about the rental market, because the rental market is kind of saying if you don't qualify for a home, you can come rent. Or if you're trying to find a home, you can't come rent. But we had this discussion actually in the Discord with some folks, and I was saying that because of COVID, landlord, and trust me, I was a landlord at one time, landlords will be very restrictive, very restrictive of who they rent to. I'm not going to name names, but the people that I rented to before, I would not rent to in this day and age. And actually, I got rid of everything right as COVID was starting to just wind up, because I knew there would be issues of people not being able to pay. I just didn't want that headache, and then you're restricted on what you can do as a landlord and all this stuff. I don't miss it, to be honest with you. But you will find probably a lot of landlords being very restrictive on who they, and selective, I should say, very selective on who they rent to, because you're going to be locked in. For me now, in order for someone to be able, if I had a property, in order for someone to be able to rent from me, I would need to see a lot of, for one, how long have you been on the job? That's something you always want to ask. Two, how much are you making? You need to be making at least 3.5, 4 times what the rent is. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, easy, because a lot of places will say 3 times as much as the rent, but I'm going to say 3.5, 4 times as much, just to make sure. I wouldn't rent to someone who has less than 5 years on the job. Personally, wouldn't do it. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by it's going to be a little bit more selective, because there are so many things right now that's working against landlords that they're a little apprehensive in terms of rents. Now, that's not those who deal with Section 8. You have some landlords that exclusively deal with Section 8 and stuff like that. The government's going to take care of them. But in the free market, no. And there's still no guarantee. You could have a job that you've been at for 20 years and still people got laid off or whatever. It's like it's a very scary time unless you can absorb it. Now, you got some of these big huge companies that, not a big deal. They can absorb losses and stuff like that, and they can kind of weather the storm, and then they'll end up making it all back, right? They'll raise prices overall over all of their collection, their portfolio, to where they balance themselves back out over time. So you may notice a bump in your rent of $100, $200. You're like, dang, but they're recovering from everything that happened, right? And it's not uncommon here for landlords to do that, especially if you're going month to month. That's the other thing. You rarely will have a landlord that says, okay, you did your year lease, sign another year lease. A lot of times they'll say you do month to month. Why? Because it makes better sense financially for the landlord for you to go month to month, because A, if you don't pay, off you go, and you're not in a contract. B, your prices can be raised at any point in time. It's a floating situation. It's not fixed. It's not locked in. It's floating. I have to give you notice, obviously, before I do that, well in advance, but it's floating. So if you say no, someone else will say yes. So you have a lot of landlords that aren't doing the, you stay for 18 months. Rare. It's rare. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of folks are open to 6-month leases, because it's like, if you're in and out, okay, cool. I'd rather you be in and out than I'm stuck with you and you can't pay. And then it costs a tremendous amount to try to fix the issue, or I just have to sit back and fold my arms and just wait to see what happens. So yeah, I think that you're right now, it's like the perfect storm when it comes to purchasing a home here or anywhere, but especially here. The demand is super, super high. The values of homes are continuing to skyrocket. And then when you throw in a new caveat, which is lumber prices as well as fuel prices are going up, that just adds more fuel to the fire. So some people are saying, is there speculation going on? Right? Is there speculation going on in Tacoma? because that has happened in Seattle, obviously, right? And excuse me, I would say that you may have some of that, sure. But I'm not aware, like in Seattle, you had a lot of big out of town, out of country people who were coming in and literally buying up stuff like they did in Vancouver. Vancouver, Canada, same thing happened. A lot of Chinese just flooded the market buying a lot of homes and sitting on them, and no one was in the homes. They were trying to build generational wealth, or when they did investments or whatnot, they could move family in if they wanted to, or if they wanted to sell it, they could. And what happened was you had a lot of empty homes with no one in it, and all the stock being bought up, and you had such a demand for everybody else wanting homes. So it just became so ultra expensive there, right? Seattle didn't want to go down that route, and it did certain things to try to curb that, but you still had a lot of speculation going on, right? From local people or people who are just moving in, and local companies. You still have a lot of speculation. So you had overinflated homes. In Tacoma, I don't think it's overinflated. There are some corrections that are happening here and there, but they're not enough to really make a difference. $6,000 change in homes in the last few days or so, on average, is not really a big to do, in my opinion, because more than likely it's just going to shoot right back up again, right? And it depends on what metric you're looking at. Some metrics show that that is not the case. You're not seeing a $6,000 decrease. You're seeing it go the other way, right? But the fact that you have the lumber issue, we're heading into summer, which is the peak time for buying homes, it's going to be impossible. Buying a home here now is almost next to impossible. And I've told, there was someone who's really been constantly checking in with me about homes here. And they've been doing so every so often because they've been wanting to move here, and they're trying to find the right time to do so financially. And I understand that. And I had to tell them that I don't think that it's going to be possible for you any longer. Keep in mind, this has been going on for 2 years, almost. And I said, I don't think it's possible. I'm not saying they've been check with me every day, but it's every now and again. And I don't think it's possible based on his needs, because financially now it's not going to work out. But for two, just trying to get into the market when there are people who are just sitting here and waiting. Keep in mind, and this is another question I need to send to the realtor, which is about cash offers. A lot of people are doing cash offers. And so that is a completely different thing. You have people who are flush with cash. There's a gentleman who asked on one of the videos, what's going to be the next IT city? Will it be Olympia? And I understand why some people want to ask that, because if you have a house here and it's worth $700,000, and then you go to another town and that same style of house or even a better house is only $400,000, people would take that deal because they're like, okay, I can sell this house, I can kind of move away, I can work remotely, and I'm good, right? I still am kind of in the area, so I can do. But to be honest with you, Olympia's prices are going up too, and I don't think that there will be an IT city. That video went out today. I did it a while back, but I don't think there is going to be an IT city, if you will, in terms of a bigger city. I think what you're going to see is just overall everything starting to just rise, right? The last, in my opinion, the last holdout in terms of bigger cities is down here in Tacoma. Everett has already skyrocketed past us in terms of housing costs. We used to be kind of close. Everett was a little bit higher. Now they're way up there. So people who can't afford to live up there are saying, forget it. I can't even afford Everett or Snohomish County. I can't afford it. They can't afford Bellevue because Bellevue is the most expensive in the area. Kind of the most expensive. It's up there. They can't afford Seattle. So Tacoma is the last place of size. And I think that once the affordability point pushes away from people, which is coming pretty soon, then that's it. You're going to start seeing everything here just kind of steadily go up, even outside the suburbs. Some of the suburbs are even more expensive. So I don't think that it's going to be the next place, because you're starting to get farther and farther away from Seattle. Keep in mind, Olympia is 30-something miles from Tacoma. There's not the same job market down in Olympia. Yeah, you have government offices and stuff like that, but you really don't have the same things in Olympia as you do here. It's a great city, don't get me wrong, but Seattle is a massive economic juggernaut, period. And the closer you can get to Seattle, the better you are when it comes to jobs, when it comes to everything. People can say what they want about Seattle, but you can't really touch Seattle at this point. It is given a lot of the crazy things that are going on and things that people question or whatever, it's still a very powerful city. Still, I went there and I couldn't even recognize the city. I went up there last weekend, went up there a couple of days, and it looks completely different. The skyline looks completely different. Like, there's a whole new big, huge, massive building, which I heard about them building, but it was already completed. It's the second tallest building there in Seattle. And it's beautiful. There's so many different high rises there. The city does not even look the same from when I went there like 2 years ago. So it is still a massive juggernaut of a city. Don't be fooled by people telling, oh, Seattle's dying. Not so much. There's social ills that are going on. There's some political issues that are going on. But the city itself is not going anywhere anytime soon. And the closer you can get to that synergy, the better it is. Now, Tacoma is also creating its own type of synergy, but it's never going to be what you have up in Seattle. But there's some things going on down here that are going to be pretty powerful economically, and there's other things that are going to be coming down the pike if they announce them. And if it does happen, that would be great. But you're not going to see the massive radiating effect like you see up in Seattle. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.